At roughly $221,000 per square meter, a single square meter of this penthouse costs more than a brand new Bentley Bentayga. Think about that, every 3 steps you take across this living room, you've covered the value of a fleet of luxury SUVs. When I first saw the headline for this $554 million penthouse, I actually thought it was a typo. I had to refresh the page. How does someone sign off on a $500 million pool deck while their hometown is literally in the line of fire? To put this in perspective, Ken Griffin, the hedge fund titan, set the US record when he paid $238 million for his New York penthouse. This Monaco deal is literally double that. It's even $181 million. More expensive than the massive Chelsea mansion I showed you in my May 2nd video. We aren't just talking about a record-breaking home anymore. We are talking about the most expensive residential transaction in human history. The story begins with a contradiction so sharp it almost feels unreal. On one side of Europe, there is unprecedented regional instability, cities scarred, industries shattered, and millions displaced. On the other side, in the glittering microstate of Monaco, Rinat Akhmetov has just shattered every record in history. He purchased a vast, 5-floor luxury apartment in the Renzo development for €471 million. Or $554 million, officially the most expensive residential transaction ever recorded. And the buyer is not a Saudi prince, not a tech mogul, not a royal family. A Ukrainian billionaire whose own businesses were dismantled and seized amidst the regional crisis. This is the story of Rinat Akhmetov, Ukraine's richest man, and the jaw-dropping Monaco mega-home that has the world talking. It's a story about wealth, unprecedented crisis, survival, and the strange contradictions of global power. And to understand why this purchase matters, we need to understand the man behind it. Looking at the industrial wreckage of the Azovstal plant. The contrast is haunting. One is a fortress of industry lost. The other is a $500 million fortress of marble found. As a creator covering the world's richest people, I've seen expensive homes, but I've never seen a hedge this big. This isn't just a penthouse to me. It looks like a $500 million life insurance policy written in Italian marble. We often think of history as a single timeline, a shared experience. But looking at this transaction, I started to realize that wealth, at this level, creates a literal departure from our reality. It's a psychological transformation. For most people, a home is where you live. For someone like Akhmetov, a home is a hedge against the collapse of civilization itself. Is it greed? Or is it a deep-seated, primal survival instinct that just happens to have a 9-figure price tag? Who is Akhmetov? Rinat Akhmetov's rise is the kind of story that could only happen in the post-Soviet world. Born in Donetsk to a coal miner father, he grew up in a region defined by heavy industry, steel, and the brutal economics of the Soviet collapse. When the USSR fell, Ukraine's industrial heartland became a battleground, not just politically, but economically. Factories were failing, ownership was unclear, and fortunes were being made and lost overnight. Akhmetov emerged from this chaos as one of the most powerful oligarchs in the country. And I found myself wondering, how does someone go from a coal miner's son to owning steel empires and billion-dollar assets? The answer is complicated. I tried to wrap my head around that kind of jump. One day you're breathing in coal dust in the Donbass, and the next, you're the king of Ukrainian steel. It's a trajectory that feels less like a career path and more like a high-stakes thriller. Think about the psychological shift required there. To go from the suffocating darkness of a coal mine, where your life depends on the physical strength of your hands, to a world where your life depends on the movement of invisible capital. That transition changes a person's soul. You stop looking at the ground and start looking at the horizon. You move from the grit of the old world to the new world of eco-luxury, not just for the comfort, but because the old world is flammable. The new world. It's built on floating concrete and glass. It's untouchable. It's the ultimate psychological escape. Akhmetov's fortune was built during the turbulent 1990s, when Ukraine's steel and coal industries were rapidly privatized. Through his company System Capital Management (SCM), he consolidated major steel mills, coal mines, and energy assets, eventually controlling Ukraine's largest industrial conglomerate. Even as recently as January 2026, he's been locked in high-stakes legal battles in Paris, aggressively pursuing $17 billion in restitution for his lost assets. But the path to that money isn't a straight line. Just this past January 15th, the Paris Court of Appeal actually struck a major blow, annulling a previous award in his favor. The court cited irregularities in the tribunal and even questioned the impartiality of the arbitrators, some of whom had social media activity that looked a bit too biased for the court's comfort. It's a reminder that in the world of high finance law, even a multi-billion-dollar win can be erased overnight by a technicality. This is the crucial distinction. While he is losing the technical battle in the courtrooms of Paris, he is winning the physical battle on the shores of the Mediterranean. To the outside world, a court defeat looks like a failure. To a man like Akhmetov, it's just a change in weather. He isn't waiting for a judge to hand him back his life. He is actively securing it in a jurisdiction where French technicalities can't reach. It reinforces his reputation not just as a businessman, but as a survivor who knows that when the system fails you, you build your own system. But this is where I believe, in my gut, you see why billionaires are self-made. Most people would see a $17 billion setback and crumble. But for someone like Akhmetov, that fight instinct is his baseline. He isn't just a businessman, he's a survivor of the Soviet collapse, a survivor of an industrial empire in flames, and now, a man refusing to let a French court technicality be the end of his story. This penthouse isn't just where he lives, it's the fortress he built while he goes back out to finish the fight. It adds a chilling layer to his survival instinct. He is clawing back every cent from the ruins of one world, even as he pours $500 million into the foundation of another. It makes you wonder if that $554 million isn't just spent money, but recovered money. Think of it this way. Every legal setback in Europe makes this penthouse more valuable to him. While $17 billion hangs in the balance of a judge's pen, this marble fortress is a tangible, undeniable win, the physical manifestation of his refusal to be wiped off the board. It's a place to park the wealth he is clawing back from the wreckage of the old world. But the crisis changed everything. When the events of 2022 escalated, some of Akhmetov's most valuable assets were destroyed or captured. The Azovstal steel plant, a symbol of Ukrainian resistance, was one of his. Power stations, mines, and factories were damaged or seized. His net worth dropped dramatically. At one point, Akhmetov lost more than $10 billion in valuation almost overnight as his steel plants and energy grids were seized. To put that in perspective, he lost more in a single week than the entire annual GDP of a nation like Fiji or Montenegro, yet he remains one of the richest men in Europe. For the elite, losing everything is a relative term. Yet even as his businesses suffered, Akhmetov became one of the largest private donors to Ukraine's humanitarian effort, providing equipment, humanitarian aid, and support to the military. This is the contradiction at the heart of the story. A man whose homeland is facing this crisis, whose assets are being destroyed. This is the haunting duality of the story. In Ukraine, his crown jewel, the Azovstal steel plant, became a blackened skeleton of twisted iron and ash, while external forces were systematically dismantling his empire. The searing orange heat of an industrial empire in flames. In the next frame, the silent, climate-controlled hush of a Monaco elevator. The smell of sulfur, the sound of falling masonry. In the next frame, the silent, climate-controlled. It's cinematic, but it's also terrifying. It's a study in the duality of ambition. The same drive that builds an empire can also build the exit ramp for when that empire burns. It makes me wonder, if you knew your world was about to end, what would you reach for? For Akhmetov, the answer was a penthouse. The home itself. Now we shift to Monaco, a place where supercars are background noise. This property sits in the Mareterra district, a €2.4 billion engineering marvel built on reclaimed land. Specifically, it's in the Renzo building, designed by Renzo Piano. This isn't just a neighborhood, it's a fortress of eco-luxury anchored to the seabed, literally expanding Monaco's borders into the Mediterranean. Akhmetov reportedly bought a 5-floor, waterfront luxury apartment spanning 27,000 square feet, with multiple balconies and terraces overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. To put that size in perspective, that is 2,500 square meters. That is the equivalent of 2,500 brand new Bentleys worth of floor space. I looked at the architectural renders of the Renzo building, and honestly, it's disorienting. I'm sitting here looking at a photo of a balcony where a single square meter of tile costs more than my first car. For us, a floor is just wood or carpet. For someone like Akhmetov, it's a metric of power. Amenities include a private swimming pool and a jacuzzi. It includes 21 rooms, private elevators, panoramic terraces, a rooftop pool, a private gym, a spa, a cinema room, and views that stretch from the Monaco Marina to the French Riviera. The parking garage alone is larger than most London flats. It's an ambition so vast it becomes abstract. It's no longer about a house. It's about the psychological comfort of knowing that even if the world outside goes mad, your square meter of marble remains the most stable thing on earth. And from those floors, he will have a front row seat to the Monaco Grand Prix. Every year, the world's loudest and most expensive cars will roar past his window, a staggering distance from the silence of the coal mines where his story began. Every detail is custom designed: marble imported from Italy, handcrafted woodwork, climate-controlled wine cellars, and security systems that rival presidential residences. This place doesn't even sound real. It makes you realize that for people like Akhmetov, expensive isn't a price, it's a barrier to entry. It's like someone told an architect, design a home with no budget and no limits, and they actually did it. This isn't just a home, it's a fortress, a status symbol, and a statement of global wealth. For billionaires like Akhmetov, properties such as Renzo are not simply homes, they are trophy assets. With prices exceeding €100,000 per square meter and demand from global ultra-wealthy buyers, Mareterra represents the pinnacle of scarcity, privacy, and prestige. Akhmetov is no stranger to headline-grabbing real estate. In 2011, he purchased a 3-story penthouse at One Hyde Park for £136.6 million, reportedly spending another £60 million on the interior. In Monaco's ultra-prime market, billionaires often compete for the highest floors, the best views, and the most exclusive buildings. Some even buy entire floors just to prevent neighbors from living too close. In this world, privacy isn't a luxury, it's a battleground. But the most fascinating detail is the timing. Finalized in 2024, details of the sale were obtained from Monaco's property records, as well as emails and deeds reviewed by Bloomberg. The purchase agreement was reportedly signed before the regional crisis began, but the deal closed after the events of 2022, meaning that while Ukraine was fighting for survival, this record-breaking transaction was quietly moving forward. It's this timing that has sparked debate, fascination, and controversy. And I get why. If I were Ukrainian right now, I'd probably have mixed feelings too. It's one of those moments where you realize that wealth doesn't just change your lifestyle, it changes the entire timeline you live on. Why Monaco? To understand why a Ukrainian billionaire would buy a $554 million home in Monaco, we need to understand what Monaco represents. Despite its tiny landmass, Monaco remains the world's premier playground for the mega-rich, offering a heady mix of tax advantages, security, and luxury amenities to its 38,000 residents. It's not just a luxury destination, it's a financial safe haven. Monaco also operates under a unique banking system. It uses French banks, but its financial privacy laws are far stricter. For the ultra-rich, that means assets held here are harder for foreign governments to trace or seize. It's one of the reasons Monaco has become a preferred vault for global wealth. Monaco has no income tax, no wealth tax, and some of the strongest privacy laws in the world. It's basically the closest thing the ultra-rich have to a real-life cheat code. And here's something most people don't realize. You can't just buy citizenship in Monaco. You can't even buy residency outright. To live here, you must prove you've deposited at least 500,000 euros into a Monaco bank, and you must secure a Monaco address, which is why ultra-rich buyers often use mega purchases like this to fast-track their residency. That's the part that really got me. I used to think of Monaco as just a backdrop for James Bond movies. But looking at this deal, I realized it's actually a life raft. A very, very shiny, $500 million life raft. For a man who watched his factories be nationalized at gunpoint, this isn't just a home, it's sovereignty. In Ukraine, ownership is a battle. In Monaco, ownership is a decree from a prince. This level of acquisition even eclipses the massive Griffin Mansion deals we've seen in the USA. While those are trophies of success, this Monaco purchase is a trophy of survival. It proves that the world isn't divided by borders anymore, it's divided by access. Monaco isn't just a country, it's a hard drive where you store your life's work so it can't be deleted. Monaco's property market is unlike any other. And remember, Monaco is tiny. The entire country is just 2.1 square kilometers, smaller than New York Central Park. Every square meter is fought over, protected, and priced like gold. When land is this limited, even a small apartment can cost more than a mansion anywhere else. The principality has chronic land scarcity, and major developments require approval from Prince Albert II himself. Mareterra, a €2 billion land reclamation project, is Monaco's most ambitious expansion in decades, adding 6 hectares of ultra-prime real estate. With average prices across Monaco reaching €52,000 per square meter and Mareterra exceeding €100,000 per square meter, the district has become one of the most expensive addresses on the planet. Monaco also has the highest concentration of millionaires and billionaires on Earth. Over 30% of residents are millionaires, and roughly 1 in every 56 people is a billionaire. In a place like this, extreme wealth isn't unusual, it's the baseline. For billionaires, it's a place to protect assets, secure residency, and live in a bubble of stability. And for someone like Akhmetov, whose businesses are tied to a country facing unprecedented upheaval, Monaco offers something priceless: certainty. We have to realize this wasn't an impulse buy made during a crisis. SCM has clarified that the investment began in 2021. This reveals the billionaire's true cheat code: intuition. He wasn't just shopping for a bedroom. He was moving his capital into a global vault before the doors to his own country's economy were blown off. It was a long-term hedge, a way to ensure that even if his factories turned to dust, his status remained untouchable. It's factual, it's strategic, but philosophically, it's an admission of fear. Even with billions, you're still looking for a place to hide. But there's another layer. Ultra-prime residences in Mareterra achieve prices exceeding €9,300 per square foot, more than double the average resale price across the principality. The average sale price for new builds soared to €36.4 million in 2024, a figure dwarfed by Akhmetov's €471 million purchase. Buying a home like this isn't just about luxury. It's about security, diversification, and long-term strategy. It's about placing it somewhere that cannot be destroyed, seized, or nationalized. And in that sense, the purchase makes perfect sense. Still, the symbolism is powerful. The purchase sparked mixed reactions internationally. Some observers criticized the optics of Ukraine's richest man finalizing a record-breaking luxury deal while his country faces devastation. And I can see both sides. It's easy to judge from the outside, but billionaires don't live by the same rules as the rest of us. Others pointed out that the agreement was signed before outside entities' full-scale escalation in 2022, and that SCM has continued to invest in Ukraine's defense and humanitarian support. Monaco's real estate community, meanwhile, viewed the sale as a landmark moment that reinforces the principality's status as the world's most expensive property market. What surprised me most was how normal this seemed to the people in Monaco. I kept asking myself, is he a villain or a survivor? But the deeper I dug, the more I realized that those labels don't really apply in the billionaire layer of the atmosphere. It's not about good or bad, it's about being untouchable. And that's what this penthouse is, a $554 million insurance policy against reality in a land of giants. A $500 million neighbor is just part of the landscape. A Ukrainian billionaire buying the world's most expensive home while his country suffers raises questions about inequality, responsibility, and the strange realities of global wealth. And here's the wild part. There's a good chance no one will ever actually live in this penthouse. Many ultra-prime properties in Monaco sit empty for years. They're not homes. They're vaults. Safe places to park money where it grows in value and stays out of reach. Some see it as a smart financial move. Others see it as tone-deaf. But everyone agrees on one thing. This is a story that captures the contradictions of our time. The bigger picture. In the end, this is more than a real estate story. It's a story about the world we live in, a world where regional crisis and luxury can exist side by side, where billionaires navigate crises differently than ordinary people, and where a single home can cost more than the GDP of small nations. Rinat Akhmetov's $554 million Monaco penthouse is a symbol of wealth, power, and survival. His story isn't about a man who stayed lucky, it's about a man who stayed mobile. By pivoting from the industrial wreckage of the East to the legal and physical safety of Monaco, he has proven that winning at this level isn't about never losing a court case, it's about ensuring that no matter how many technical battles you lose, you have a $500 million fortress to retreat to. It is the ultimate survivor's move, losing the empire, but keeping the crown. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments of history, the global elite continue to operate in a different universe. Akhmetov's purchase reflects a broader shift in global wealth migration. And when you compare the price of this penthouse to the reality in Ukraine, the contrast becomes even sharper. $554 million could rebuild dozens of schools, fund hospitals, or provide housing for tens of thousands of displaced families. It's a reminder of how differently wealth and suffering can exist side by side. Ultra-rich individuals are increasingly moving capital into politically stable microstates such as Monaco, Singapore, and Dubai, places with strong legal protections, low taxes, and limited land supply. And it makes me wonder, is this the future? A world where the wealthy live in fortified bubbles while everyone else deals with the chaos outside? As geopolitical instability rises worldwide, these wealth havens are becoming the preferred long-term safe zones for billionaires. Mareterra's record-breaking prices signal that ultra-prime real estate is evolving into a new form of global wealth insurance, and whether you see this purchase as strategic, controversial, or simply unbelievable, one thing is clear. This transaction surpasses every known residential sale globally. The world isn't divided by borders anymore, it's divided by access. Access to safety, access to stability, and the $554 million price tag required to enter the vault. In the end, I'm left with this. We are all observers of a transformation we can barely comprehend. We see a billionaire buying a penthouse, he sees a man buying a future. The tragedy isn't just the contrast between the upheaval and the wealth, it's the realization that stability has become a luxury item. As we look at those sunset photos from Renzo and the blackened ruins of Azovstal, we're forced to ask, in a world of rising chaos, is the goal still to build something great? Or is the new ambition simply to find a way to never have to look back? If you want to see how this compares to what was, until last week, the most expensive house ever sold in Britain, check out my deep dive into that $373 million Chelsea mansion. The link is in the description below. At Richest Billionaires Homes, we believe every brick tells a story of a life well lived. We don't just show you floor plans, we show you the vision it took to draw them. If you're busy building your own legacy, subscribe. Let's look at the next blueprint together. You see, we don't just showcase properties, we sell a dream. Our mission is to narrate the lifestyle, the vision, and the legacy behind every billionaire's home. We believe in tell, don't just show, because every space deserves a voice. The original stories we share here aren't found anywhere else on YouTube or social media. That is our brand guarantee. These scripts are crafted by real people to inspire, captivate, and elevate your imagination. Because a home is more than an address, it's an identity.
All this time, I've been holding on so tight, 'cause all that